In life, many of us find ourselves caught in the web of societal expectations, feeling pressured to surround ourselves with others to feel validated and worthy. But what if we take a moment to step back and examine the woman who walks her journey alone, without the company of close friends? Is she lost? Is she weak? Absolutely not. The absence of friends in her life does not signify her inability to connect or her lack of value. Instead, it speaks to something deeper, a profound opportunity for personal growth, self-discovery, and inner strength. It's easy to get caught up in the notion that our worth is tied to the people around us, that our lives are somehow incomplete without a circle of friends to share in our joys and struggles. But consider this. The most resilient individuals, the ones who endure life's hardships and emerge stronger, are often the ones who have learned to stand alone. They understand the power of their own company, the importance of nurturing their inner world, and the ability to find peace and purpose within themselves, independent of external validation. And the reason that that's true is this is where the idea of the cult, a woman with no friends, has the opportunity to cultivate a rich and fulfilling life on her own terms, to build a sense of self that is unshakable and grounded in her own values. This is not a story of loneliness but of empowerment, where solitude becomes a space for introspection, creativity, and transformation. It's a reminder that you are enough, that your worth is not determined by your social circle, but by the strength of your character and the depth of your soul. Self-reliance is one of the most powerful forces you can cultivate within yourself. It's a state of being where you no longer need constant validation from others, where your happiness and sense of purpose aren't dependent on the opinions or actions of the people around you. This does not mean that you reject relationships or abandon human connection, but rather that you find a deep, unshakable confidence in your ability to stand alone and face life on your own terms. This is the strength of solitude. In a world that often encourages dependency, whether it's the validation we seek from social media, the approval we crave from peers, or the constant need to be surrounded by others, the idea of embracing solitude may seem alien, even uncomfortable. Yet it is in solitude that we find our true selves, away from the noise and distractions of external influences. When you learn to embrace self-reliance, you begin to experience life through your own lens, unclouded by the judgments or expectations of others. This is where your personal power emerges. Think for a moment about the most accomplished individuals in history. Many of them, at certain points, were isolated, they worked in solitude, they pondered in silence, and they discovered their greatest insights when they had nothing but their own thoughts for company. They did not rely on the opinions or the validation of others to tell them what was right or wrong, what was possible or impossible. They looked within, and that's where they found their strength. The journey of embracing self-reliance begins with understanding that you are your own most valuable resource. You can depend on yourself, you can trust in your abilities, and this trust is built not through external praise, but through internal consistency. Every decision you make, every challenge you face alone, strengthens your resolve and refines your character. The more you stand on your own, the more you realize that you are capable of handling whatever life throws your way. You develop a sense of mastery over your own life, and that is an empowering feeling. Now, this doesn't mean you have to reject friendships, family, or other relationships that bring you joy and support, but it does mean that you no longer rely on those relationships to validate your existence. You realize that your worth is not tied to the approval of others. This understanding brings immense freedom. You no longer live in fear of losing relationships or the fear of abandonment. You understand that you can stand tall, even in the absence of those around you. Solitude is a powerful teacher. It forces you to confront your own thoughts, to come face to face with your strengths and weaknesses, and to understand your deepest desires. In those moments of quiet, when you have nothing to distract you, you are given the opportunity to know yourself in a way that no external relationship could ever offer. And when you truly know yourself, you are no longer at the mercy of others. You no longer need their approval, their praise, or their constant companionship to feel secure. You know that you are enough on your own. And yet, there is a paradox here. In the embrace of self-reliance and solitude, you paradoxically become more capable of connecting with others. When you are comfortable in your own company, when you are whole and self-sufficient, you can form relationships that are not rooted in need or dependency, but in mutual respect and genuine connection. You bring your full, authentic self to the table, and that authenticity is the foundation for meaningful, enduring relationships. Self-reliance also teaches you resilience. Life is filled with challenges, and not every challenge will be met with the comfort of a close friend or a family member by your side. There will be times when you will face adversity alone. But this is where the true value of self-reliance becomes clear. When you can rely on yourself to navigate these tough times, when you trust your inner strength to guide you, you are unbreakable. The adversity doesn't seem as overwhelming anymore because you know that you can rise to meet it. No matter how difficult, you have weathered storms before, and you will continue to do so. Solitude is not a punishment, it is a gift. It is an opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and empowerment. It allows you to become the best version of yourself, independent of the opinions or judgments of others. The more you lean into self-reliance, the more you develop the ability to navigate life with clarity, purpose, and confidence. You understand that happiness is not something that is given to you by others, it is something that you create within yourself. And this is where the strength of solitude lies, not in isolation, but in the understanding that you are capable, worthy, and strong on your own. It is the realization that your value is not defined by your social circle, your relationships, or the validation you receive from others. Your value is inherent. You are enough as you are. And when you truly believe this, when you embrace this power of self-reliance, you find that you are not alone at all. You are connected to the deepest, most reliable source of strength that you could ever have. Yourself. Through this journey, you learn that being alone is not the same as being lonely. You learn that solitude is not an absence, but a presence that brings clarity, strength, and peace. The more you embrace solitude and self-reliance, the more you will find that you are not dependent on others to feel complete. You will discover that you are whole, that you are powerful, and that your worth is undeniable, simply because you exist. In a world constantly urging us to measure our worth through the eyes of others, finding inner peace can seem like a daunting challenge. We are bombarded with messages that tell us we need the approval, admiration, and acceptance of others in order to feel truly valued. This pressure, whether it's from social media, our families, or our peers, distorts our sense of self and distracts us from the deeper, more fulfilling truth that true peace comes from within. It comes from the understanding that you do not need to seek validation from others in order to feel whole, worthy, or complete. The real question is, how do you find that peace? The journey begins with the realization that external validation is fleeting and unreliable. It can be uplifting in the moment, but it is fragile. The praise of others, the compliments, the likes, and the applause all fade. What happens when that external approval is no longer there? What happens when the world goes silent, or when criticism comes instead of praise? If your sense of worth is tied to the opinions of others, then your peace will always be temporary, unstable, and vulnerable to the winds of change. But there is another way. Instead of seeking approval from the outside, you can learn to look inward. You can begin to build a foundation of self-acceptance that is solid, unshakable, and entirely independent of what others think. This is not an invitation to reject the importance of relationships or to isolate yourself from the world. It is an invitation to find your worth not in the external, but in the internal. Inner peace is the result of knowing yourself deeply, understanding your values, your strengths, and even your flaws, and accepting them fully. It is the act of becoming grounded in your own identity, independent of the judgments of others. The more you cultivate this sense of self-acceptance, the more you realize that you do not need the approval of others to feel secure in your own skin. You are enough simply because you exist. Building this inner peace requires discipline. It means learning to trust your own judgment, rather than constantly seeking reassurance from others. It involves making decisions that align with your values and sticking to them, even when others may disagree. or offer criticism. It is about developing the strength to stand tall in the face of adversity, and knowing that your worth is not determined by others' perceptions. One of the key elements in finding inner peace is the ability to let go of comparison. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to compare ourselves to others, whether it's through social media, work achievements, or physical appearance. This comparison breeds insecurity and self-doubt. But when you learn to let go of these comparisons, you are liberated. You no longer need to measure your success or your worth by the standards of others. You are able to define success on your own terms based on your own unique journey and values. This is when peace begins to take root. And this is when peace begins to take root. Another essential component of finding inner peace is learning to manage your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself can either build you up or tear you down. If you are constantly filled with self-criticism and doubt, your sense of inner peace will be undermined. However, if you can learn to replace those negative thoughts with compassion, encouragement, and acceptance, you begin to nurture a sense of inner calm. You become your own ally, your own source of support, and your own voice of reason. This practice, over time, will transform the way you view yourself and the world around you. It's important to recognize that finding peace within yourself is not about being perfect. It's not about eliminating flaws or never experiencing moments of self-doubt. It's about embracing your imperfections and understanding that they are part of what makes you human. Inner peace comes from accepting yourself in your entirety, the strengths, the weaknesses, the successes, the failures. Without the need for external approval or validation, it's about knowing that you are worthy simply because you exist and that your worth is not contingent upon anything other than your being. One of the most profound aspects of this journey is learning to embrace solitude. Solitude allows you to connect with yourself in ways that are not possible when you are constantly surrounded by the noise of the world. In solitude, you have the space to reflect, to process, and to grow. It is in these moments of quiet that you are able to hear your own voice, free from the influence of others. The more you learn to be comfortable in your own company, the more you realize that you do not need to seek validation from others to feel complete. And when you embrace this inner peace, you begin to thrive. You stop living for the approval of others and you start living for yourself. You make choices that are aligned with your values, not the expectations of others. You act with confidence, knowing that you do not need to prove yourself to anyone. This sense of self-assurance radiates outward, and others will be drawn to it. They will respect you, not because you seek their approval, but because you are grounded in your own sense of worth. Finding inner peace is not a destination, but a journey. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to confront the difficult truths about yourself. But the reward is profound. A life lived with purpose, with authenticity, and with peace. When you stop seeking validation from the outside, you become free. You become free to express yourself fully, to pursue your passions, and to live in alignment with your deepest values. In the end, peace is not something that can be given to you by others. It is something that you must cultivate within yourself. It is the result of trusting yourself, accepting yourself, and embracing your own worth. When you find that peace, you find a strength that is unshakable and a joy that is not dependent on the approval of others. It is a peace that can weather any storm and a peace that is yours to keep. In life, there are moments when we find ourselves alone, disconnected from the people we love, and without the external support we might crave. It's easy to feel lost or even unworthy in these moments. Society often conditions us to believe that our value comes from the relationships we have with others, from the praise we receive, and from the recognition we garner from those around us. But what happens when those things are no longer there? What happens when others aren't around to provide us with the validation and support we've grown accustomed to? This is when the power of self-love becomes essential. Self-love is not just a buzzword or a passing trend. It is a deep, transformative force that can carry us through life's challenges and help us thrive in even the most difficult circumstances. At its core, self-love is about understanding your own worth, embracing who you are in your entirety, and nurturing yourself with the same care and compassion that you would extend to someone you deeply care about. It's about recognizing that you don't need the validation of others to feel whole, and that you can create your own sense of worth and fulfillment from within. When others aren't around, it's easy to fall into a state of loneliness or self-doubt. We may feel as though we are not enough, that we need others to complete us. But the truth is, the power to nurture and validate ourselves lies within us. The most profound form of self-love comes from the understanding that we are complete on our own. We don't need others to define us, to validate our existence, or to make us feel valuable. We have the ability to fill our own cup, to give ourselves the care and support we need, even in the absence of others. The first step toward nurturing yourself when others aren't around is to learn how to be comfortable in your own company. For many, this can be a daunting challenge. We are so accustomed to being surrounded by people, by noise, by distractions, that the idea of being alone can feel overwhelming. But in reality, solitude offers us the rare opportunity to connect with ourselves on a deeper level. It is in these quiet moments that we can listen to our own thoughts, reflect on our desires, and get to know ourselves in ways that are not possible when we are constantly surrounded by external influences. Being comfortable with solitude is not the same as being lonely. Solitude is a space where you can reclaim your sense of self, where you can explore your passions, your goals, and your values. It's a time to reflect on who you are, what you want, and how you want to live. When you begin to embrace your own company, you start to realize that you are capable of nurturing yourself, of filling your own heart with love and compassion. You become your own best friend, your own greatest source of support. And so, nurturing yourself also means recognizing the importance of self-compassion. Life is difficult, and none of us are immune to challenges, failures, and setbacks. When others aren't around to offer comfort or encouragement, it's easy to be harsh on ourselves, to criticize ourselves for not being strong enough or capable enough. But self-love means offering yourself the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a loved one who was struggling. It means acknowledging your mistakes without judgment, forgiving yourself for your shortcomings, and giving yourself the grace to grow and learn. One of the most powerful ways to nurture yourself is through the practice of self-care. Self-care is not just about indulging in luxuries or treating yourself to temporary pleasures. True self-care is about creating habits and practices that nourish your body, mind, and spirit. It's about taking the time to rest when you need it, to exercise to keep your body strong, to eat nourishing foods that fuel your energy, and to engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Self-care is an expression of self-love, a way of showing yourself that you are worthy of time, attention, and care. Another aspect of nurturing yourself is learning to set boundaries. When others are not around to offer guidance or support, it is easy to fall into the trap of trying to please everyone, to overextend yourself in order to gain the approval of others. But self-love requires that we learn to protect our energy, to say no when necessary, and to prioritize our own well-being above the demands and expectations of others. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is a vital act of self-preservation. It allows you to conserve your energy, to protect your emotional health, and to ensure that you are giving to others only when you have the capacity to do so. Therefore, it is not unkind to take care of yourself. Self-love also involves cultivating a sense of gratitude. It's easy to focus on what's missing in our lives, especially when others are not around to provide us with what we think we need. But by shifting our focus to what we do have, our strengths, our resources, our passions, and the simple joys of life, we begin to create a sense of abundance. Gratitude helps us appreciate the richness of our own lives, even in moments of solitude. It allows us to see that we are not lacking, but rather that we are already whole and complete. When you embrace self-love, you begin to create a life that is centered around your own happiness and fulfillment. You no longer rely on others to determine your worth or to define your happiness. Instead, you become the architect of your own life, creating a reality that is aligned with your true desires and values. This internal sense of love and fulfillment radiates outward, and while you may still appreciate the companionship and support of others, you no longer need it in order to feel whole. Self-love is a transformative force that has the power to change the way you experience the world. When you nurture yourself, when you fill your own heart with love and compassion, you become more resilient, more confident, and more capable of facing life's challenges. You become empowered, knowing that you have the strength within you to create a life that is deeply fulfilling, regardless of whether others are around to validate your existence. Ultimately, the power of self-love is about reclaiming your own sense of worth, understanding that you are valuable simply because you exist. It is about nurturing yourself in ways that allow you to thrive, even when others aren't around. It is the foundation of inner peace, the key to resilience, and the pathway to a life filled with joy, purpose, and fulfillment. When you love yourself, you create a life that is truly your own, and that is the most powerful gift you can give yourself. Loneliness is a powerful emotion, one that can creep into your life when you least expect it, leaving you feeling isolated, disconnected, and even unworthy. In a world that often celebrates connection, it's easy to feel as though you are missing something when you find yourself alone. Yet loneliness is not something to fear or dread. It's an opportunity, an invitation to grow, to reflect, and to build a deeper understanding of yourself. The key to overcoming loneliness is learning how to transform it from something that weighs you down into something that propels you forward. When loneliness strikes, it's easy to slip into a mindset of victimhood, where you feel as though life is happening to you, and you have no control over your circumstances. You might begin to believe that you are the only one suffering, that everyone else is connected, loved, and fulfilled, while you remain isolated. This kind of thinking keeps you trapped in the negative cycle of loneliness. But it is crucial to recognize that loneliness is not a permanent state. It's a feeling, not a fact, and it can be transformed if you approach it with the right mindset. The first step in transforming loneliness is to shift your perspective. Instead of viewing it as something to escape from, begin to see it as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. Loneliness has a way of forcing you to look inward, to examine your thoughts, emotions, and desires. It creates a space where you can connect with yourself, free from the distractions and influences of the outside world. This is an incredibly valuable experience, as it allows you to understand who you truly are, what you want, and what you need in order to live a fulfilling life. And this reconciling with our true selves is a key principle of spirituality. When you are alone, you are no longer influenced by the opinions of others, the expectations of society, or the demands of relationships. You are left with only your own thoughts, your own values, and your own desires. This is a moment of clarity, a moment where you can begin to create the life you truly want, independent of anyone else's input. This is the power of solitude. It allows you to strip away the external noise and focus on what truly matters to you. However, this is not to say that loneliness is without its challenges. It can be uncomfortable, even painful, especially when it's prolonged. But rather than avoiding or suppressing these feelings, embrace them. Understand that they are a natural part of the human experience. Everyone faces loneliness at some point in their life, and the key is not to let it define you. It is merely a phase, a temporary feeling that you can move through and learn from. One of the most profound ways to overcome loneliness is to use it as an opportunity for self-improvement. When you are alone, you have the time and space to focus on your passions, your goals, and your personal development. This is the time to dive into the things that excite you, the things that make you feel alive. And whether it's pursuing a new hobby, learning a new skill, or dedicating yourself to a creative project, loneliness can be the fuel that drives you to accomplish things you never thought possible. Self-improvement, however, is not just about external achievements. It's about the internal work of becoming more resilient, more self-aware, and more compassionate toward yourself. When you are alone, you can begin to heal old wounds, confront past fears, and challenge negative thought patterns. You can reframe your story and begin to see yourself not as a victim of your circumstances, but as a powerful agent of change in your own life, which another crucial aspect of overcoming loneliness is developing a sense of purpose. Often, loneliness stems from a feeling of disconnection, not just from others, but from something larger than yourself. When you feel disconnected from your purpose, when you lack direction, loneliness can feel all-consuming. But when you find your purpose, when you begin to live in alignment with your values and passions, loneliness starts to fade. Purpose gives you something to focus on, something that pulls you forward, even in the toughest times. It's about finding meaning in your life, whether it's through work, creativity, spirituality, or service to others. This doesn't mean that you must find your grand purpose overnight. Purpose is not always a singular, clearly defined goal. Sometimes it's about taking small, meaningful steps towards something that resonates with you, something that brings you joy and fulfillment. The key is to stay connected to what drives you, even in moments of isolation. When you have a sense of purpose, loneliness becomes less of an obstacle and more of a catalyst for growth. In addition to developing purpose, it's essential to cultivate a positive relationship with yourself. Loneliness can sometimes bring with it feelings of inadequacy or self-criticism, but this is the moment to practice self-compassion. Rather than falling into the trap of self-blame or judgment, recognize that your feelings of loneliness are not a reflection of your worth. They are simply a part of the human experience, and they too shall pass. So, treat yourself with kindness, with patience, and with understanding. The more you learn to love and accept yourself, the less power loneliness has over you. Finally, remember that loneliness doesn't have to mean total isolation. While it's important to embrace and make the most of your solitude, it's also crucial to recognize the value of reaching out to others when you need it. Loneliness can be an invitation to connect, to forge deeper relationships, and to build communities of support. Sometimes overcoming loneliness means being vulnerable, opening up to others, and allowing yourself to form new connections. It's about breaking down the walls that isolation can build and reaching out for the connection that we all crave. But remember, the most important relationship you have is with yourself. No external connection can replace the bond you share with your own being. Loneliness is not a permanent state, nor is it something to fear. It is a powerful force that can be transformed into an opportunity for personal growth, self-discovery, and resilience. By shifting your perspective, using your time alone to focus on self-improvement, finding purpose, and cultivating self-compassion, you can overcome loneliness and emerge stronger, wiser, and more connected to yourself and the world around you. In this way, loneliness becomes a stepping stone on your path to a fuller, richer life. Isolation is often viewed as a weakness, a state of vulnerability that most of us seek to avoid at all costs. It can be uncomfortable, even painful, and can leave us feeling disconnected from the world around us. But what if I told you that isolation can be a gateway to empowerment? That in the midst of loneliness and solitude, there is an opportunity to build the very qualities that can transform your life: confidence and resilience. The first step in this transformation is understanding that isolation, while challenging, does not define you. It is merely a circumstance, one that can be used as a powerful tool for personal growth. When we are isolated, we are often forced to confront ourselves in ways we would prefer to avoid. In the absence of the noise and distractions of the world, we are left with our thoughts, our fears, our insecurities. This can be a daunting experience, but it is also the starting point for building confidence. Confidence is not something that can be given to you by others. It is not something that comes from external validation or praise. True confidence comes from within. It is the result of facing your fears, taking action in the face of uncertainty, and learning to trust yourself, even when the world around you feels chaotic or uncertain. When you are isolated, you are given the unique opportunity to practice this self-reliance. You are forced to rely on your own strength, your own judgment, and your own ability to navigate the challenges that life presents. Each time you push through the discomfort of isolation, you build a little more confidence in your ability to handle what comes your way. Resilience, like confidence, is a quality that is built over time. It is the ability to bounce back from adversity, to face setbacks without being defeated by them. In isolation, you may encounter moments of doubt, frustration, or sadness. These are normal human experiences. But it is how you respond to these moments that defines your resilience. Rather than succumbing to despair, You can choose to view these challenges as opportunities to grow stronger. Resilience is developed in the face of adversity, and isolation, though difficult, can provide you with the space to build this inner strength. One of the most powerful ways to build resilience is to develop a mindset that embraces difficulty as a natural part of life. The human experience is not one of constant ease and comfort. We all face hardship, whether it's in our personal lives, our careers, or our relationships. But it is through these struggles that we become stronger, wiser, and more capable of navigating the complexities of life. When you are isolated, you can begin to shift your mindset from one of victimhood to one of empowerment. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who is at the mercy of external circumstances, you begin to see yourself as someone who has the power to shape their own destiny. And this is neutral. This is how you transcend your life in favor of life in a spiritual sense, because this is the way we understand the world around us. This shift in perspective is crucial. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that isolation is a punishment, that it is something to be avoided at all costs. But what if you began to see it as a training ground for your inner strength? What if you recognized that in the moments when you feel most alone, you are actually building the very qualities that will allow you to thrive in the face of future challenges? I firmly believe that in the resistance to settling for traditional approaches, socialism has incentivized the fastest response to the challenges of when you approach isolation with this mindset, you take control of your situation. You no longer view yourself as a victim of your circumstances, but as an empowered individual capable of using isolation as a stepping stone to greater confidence and resilience. As you begin to embrace the challenges of isolation, you also begin to cultivate a sense of purpose. Confidence and resilience are not built by simply enduring difficulty. They are built by having a clear sense of why you are enduring. Purpose gives you direction. It gives you a reason to keep moving forward, even when the road is tough. When you are isolated, it can be tempting to lose sight of your goals, to feel disconnected from your sense of purpose. But this is the moment to reconnect with your deeper values, to remind yourself of what you are working toward and why it matters. Purpose is a source of strength. It provides you with the motivation to keep going even when the world seems silent and unresponsive. It reminds you that your efforts are not in vain, that there is meaning in the work you are doing even if it is not immediately visible to others. When you have a strong sense of purpose, isolation becomes less of a burden and more of an opportunity to focus, to sharpen your skills, and to prepare yourself for the future. Another key element of building confidence and resilience in isolation is self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on yourself when you're alone. The voice of self-criticism becomes louder in moments of solitude, and you may begin to doubt your abilities, question your worth, or feel as though you are falling behind. But resilience requires self-compassion. It requires that you treat yourself with kindness, that you acknowledge your efforts, and celebrate your progress even if it feels small. Self-compassion allows you to bounce back from setbacks more quickly, to forgive yourself for mistakes, and to move forward with greater strength and clarity. Building confidence and resilience is also about taking responsibility for your own life. In isolation, you have no one else to blame. There are no external distractions or excuses. You are forced to confront your own actions, your own choices, and your own attitudes. This can be an uncomfortable process, but it is essential for growth. Taking responsibility for your life means recognizing that you have the power to change, to improve, and to shape your own future. It means no longer relying on others to validate you or to dictate the course of your life. When you take responsibility, you empower yourself to create the life you want. The journey from isolation to empowerment is not an easy one. It requires courage, perseverance, and a willingness to face discomfort. But it is a journey worth taking. By embracing isolation as an opportunity to build confidence and resilience, you transform a challenging experience into one of growth and empowerment. You become stronger, more capable, and more self-reliant. You begin to see yourself not as someone who is at the mercy of life's challenges, but as someone who has the power to overcome them. In the end, isolation becomes a powerful tool in your journey toward self-mastery, and the confidence and resilience you build will serve you for the rest of your life. In the end, being a woman with no friends doesn't diminish your worth or define your potential. It's not a reflection of your value, but rather an opportunity for self-discovery, growth, and empowerment. Embrace this time to build a strong foundation within yourself, cultivate self-love, and become the best version of who you are. True strength comes from within, and when you learn to stand alone, you unlock an unmatched power. Remember, your journey is yours to shape, and you are enough, with or without the company of others. The greatest friendship begins with the one you have with yourself.